Good evening, everyone. I want to invite my colleagues on the Horseshoe and the public to the Finance and Budget Committee meeting for November 7th. With that, we're going to move on through the agenda. Justice Lemming has agreed to do us the honor of prayer and pledge. Justice Lemming.
Let's pray. Father, I just want to thank you for the many blessings that you give each and every one of us each and every day. Father, just be with us tonight as we work through the finance and budget for the Washington County and do the best we can for the citizens of Washington County. Father, just be with all the military, first responders, police, military folks. We ask all this in your Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Lemming. With that, we're going to move to the adoption of the agenda. Are there any motions to amend the agenda? Justice Hires?
Thank you, Judge. I have some guests here that are here to speak to item 13, and to spare them the pain of sitting through the budget meeting, I would like to move that we move item 13 to the beginning of new business.
Second.
I have a motion to move item number 13 to the beginning of the new business, which would be new item number 7. Did I hear second? I have a second by Justice Rios Stafford. Any discussion of that amendment? Okay, we'll take a roll. All those in favor of moving item number 13 to number 7?
Aye.
Those opposed? Item 13 will now become item number 7.
Thank you.
Justice Rios Stafford, did you have something additional? Justice Lyons?
Make a motion, we adopt the amended agenda.
I have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Great. The agenda has been adopted. With that, we'll move into our monthly reports. Treasurer Hill?
Mr. Chair, good evening, Court.
Is it on? Okay. Right into the Treasurer report. 4.1. Through the month of October, all balances remain healthy and stable. So general, road, and jail all had revenues coming in over expenditures. At the bottom of this report, had $99.6 million to start the month and $103,784,000 to end the month in the bank. 4.2 property taxes, $1,837,000 came in the general fund. That's a little more than last year at this time. And for the year, we're up 6%. I do have the number for the next line, see the $6,040,000 in 2022. We just receipted in $6.9 million this year, so an $800,000 increase for the month of November. And that puts us at almost 9% growth over last year. 4.3, ARPA report. We have 41.6 obligated, 31.7 has been expended, and we have about 14.8 million remaining in the fund at this time. 4.4, 1 cent sales tax. For the first time in a long time, we're in negative territory. Brought in $900,000 this month. That was a 2.27% decrease from the same time last year. Last year at this same time, we had a 17% increase, so maybe it was balancing it out over those 2 years. But for the first time since April of 2021, we have seen a deficit. Quarter-cent jail tax, 4.5. 6.57 for the year, up $819,000 over last year. But like the 1 cent tax, it's 2.27% below last year. And that's all I have this month.
Questions for Treasurer Hill? Justice Lemming?
Bobby, you think there's some reason for that, maybe? with them being down like that?
It's been trending down for, what, this will be the fourth month in a row. So I would say that's a trend. About reasons, consumer confidence lagging. I don't think inflation's getting a whole lot better, so I don't
I think
think.
it's probably going to continue going down, just a wild guess.
Wild guess? It could.
Okay, thank you.
Politician's answer?
Additional questions for Treasurer Hill? Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear the Employees Insurance Report. Mr. Angel?
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I think you guys should all have a 2024 funding packet. I'll spare you the first few pages of that. We can move directly to page 4, which is your 2023 health plan cash flow. I apologize for the blurry print today. That's why I've had to break out some assistance here. So I'll jump right into it. And, you know, we had a better month this month than we had the month prior. But as you guys can see, it was still an expensive month. Last month, our total spend was $733,000 and change. We were down to $616,000, almost $617,000 this month. So again, moving in the right direction, but much higher than we want to be based on our total funding, which is right at $400,000, just under $400,000. So we've had a rough couple of months. We've been able to secure good contracts in 2023, better than we had in 2022. But as I've told you all many times, the one thing we can't really control is claims. And we have had a rough claims year. And you're just going to have some of that sometimes. Unfortunately, that's why folks have insurance. And we've taken some hits recently. But the good thing that the county has done over the years is make sure that you have a surplus. And that's really bailed us out. Our surplus account is still around $2.9 million. We don't foresee these numbers just drastically falling off the last 3 months of the year. So where we started the year at around $3.3 million in that surplus account, I think we are going to end up down for the year. I think we will be dipping into that some when we're guessing, obviously, because we have another quarter of claims to come in. But just looking at these trends, I don't foresee us just paying no claims over the last 3 months. So we have recommended maybe a little bit more claims funding for next year. We've taken several calls about that. But this is the reason, just because the claims have trended up this year, especially over the last couple of months.
Questions for Mr. Angel? Yeah. Okay.
I paused thinking there would be some there. The last couple of pages on here just kind of get into where we expect the number to be. And it's on the bottom of this page. They've reprinted. If we're looking at the trend, you know, we think we'll be about 900,000 under this year. That's probably adding a little bit in for what the last couple of months are, and we hope that continues to levelize. But again, kind of where we are.
Any questions?
Thank you, Judge.
Good. Thank you, sir. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mr. Angel. You have to come back up. Well, I've missed a question for us. Justice Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. This was actually really more a question for you and just the budget in general. Will these potential savings from this, will this make the 2024 budget less tight? Or was this factored into that already?
It was already factored in. It will
Okay.
not make it less tight.
Okay.
We're on the verge of making it worse.
All right.
Maybe.
Thank you.
Too early to tell. Is that good? Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. My question is, on the last page where if I'm reading this correctly, the monthly rate for next year will be $645.88. Could you remind me, that's quite an increase, but I mean, is the county making up the difference, or is that going to be something we talk about in the budget?
That is certainly something the county would make the decision on, not JTS.
Okay, is that like for an individual plan, not a family plan?
That is the aggregate of all plans, what it would be per employee. So that's somewhere between what the
employee,
individual would
okay.
be and a family rate would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next up is Comptroller's report. Comptroller Story.
Good evening, Judge, and good evening, Court. 6.1 is a statement of operations. We're now 83% through the year, as you see on line 1, column K. If you look down below column K, down through line 8, you'll see that everything seems to be within that 83% except the road fund, which is as we've seen in prior months, is a little bit on the high side just because of the time of the year, seasonality, before the cold weather sets in. Everybody else seems to be well within the rule of thumb range of the 83%. If we paid everything within 30 days, we would be at a 92% rate over in column J, line 3. Or line 2, and if you notice there, everybody seems to be within the range if we were to pay everything off in 30 days, but that's not usually the case because we do have certain things that are by month and they're encumbered by the month. And so everything to me looks in good shape on page 2. As far as looking at the different percentages, everything seems to be in good order. So I don't really have any other comments to make with regard to the statement of operations on 6.1. 6.2 is the unappropriated reserve balance report. We only had one transaction that affected unappropriated reserves last month, which was an appropriation to increase special legal line item in litigation expenses of $20,000. Nothing else affected the unappropriated reserves, so I don't really have any other comments to make. It basically stayed the same as the prior month.
Questions for Comptroller Story? Thanks, sir. Appreciate you. With that, we're going to move on to the new business of the meeting. If you remember, we amended the agenda and moved item number 13 to item number 7, so we'll start with item number 13. An ordinance appropriating $33,436 from the American Rescue Plan Fund Act 3046 to the pass-through payments line item in the American Rescue Plan Act budget for 2023. Justice Hires, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, thank you, Judge. I have a couple of guests here that I would like to come up with the court's pleasure and kind of tell you a little bit about this. But before I bring them up, I just want to remind everybody that when we first got this American Rescue Plan funding, one of the big expenses that we gave out was $1.9 million to Returning Home. And it's a great program, absolutely support it, but the problem is it only supports men coming out of the criminal justice system. I believe we have a little bit of an equity issue, and so I wanted to give some support to Magdalene Serenity House as well. I am not asking for $1.9 million, just 1.7% of that amount, and much less even than the interest that has been moved into the general fund from this account. So I have here Takama Staten Brooks, who is the executive director of Magdalene Serenity House, and Joy Morris, the development officer, and I just wanted them to come up and remind you about this project that they had pitched to us earlier.
Hi, Hi, we both serve with Meg.
Just a second. Yeah, you're gonna have to sit down and get close to the microphone so that we can hear online. Thank you, yep.
Thank you for allowing us to come before you. We both serve with Magdalene Serenity House. It is a emergency shelter location for women who have been recently released from incarceration, facing trauma and addiction issues in their past, and so we're helping them to rebuild their lives. It is a residential program that houses women for up to 2 years.
We serve some of the community's most vulnerable women. These are women who have faced severe trauma, sexual exploitation, addiction, and incarceration, cycles that are very, very tough to break. And our program gives them the time and the tools and the resources they need to be able to learn new coping skills, learn how to heal and recover from addiction, and build skills toward becoming financially self-sustainable. So it is a program that really is of benefit to the entire community, and so we are here to answer any more questions if you have any.
I would like to add that we are one of the only facilities that houses women who've been who are on parole, despite being so close to the correctional facility here in Washington County.
I didn't get their names and positions.
Yeah, could you restate your names and your positions, and once again, try to move closer to the microphone? They're pretty touchy with it.
Sure. I'm Takema Staten Brooks. I'm the executive director for Magdalene Serenity House.
And I'm Joy Morris. I'm development director at Magdalene Serenity House.
How long have you guys been with the organization?
I just started last month, so in October.
And I've been with the organization a little over 2 years.
Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. What happened to Miss April?
April resigned, and she left back in July. So she has accepted another position, still working with folks in recovery.
Okay.
One-on-one.
Gotcha. So it's been a while since I've visited with Miss April, obviously. Can you tell me about capacity? So looking back on when we had the applications for nonprofits, and that was something that was important to me. There's tons and tons of great causes in Washington County, but I was trying to look at impact and sustainability and longevity of programs, like from a cost per dollar standpoint. How many women do you serve, and for what length of time, and like what kind of impact can this $33,000 do for your organization?
Our program houses up to 8 women at a time. So the program is designed for up to 2 years for the residential program. However, they could graduate from our program early, providing that they've met their goals. So there is a capacity to serve more than just 8 people just by the attrition of the residents who live with our community.
Justice Pond?
Yes, thank you all for coming. Can you tell us again, where is your facility located?
Sure, we're off Adams Street, which is in the Wilson Park area.
Okay, and have you received any of this money from the city of Fayetteville or the other cities in Washington County?
We were approved for a different program for the city of Fayetteville's ARPA funding to create and help with renovations for creating an aftercare program, which will provide safe, affordable housing for graduates of our program.
And are all of the people you're serving, your residents there, are they all Washington County citizens or residents, or are they Fayetteville citizens or residents, or where are they coming in from, basically?
Most of them come from our women's prison here in Fayetteville, and
Okay.
some come from treatment facilities locally as well.
Thank you.
Additional questions or comments? Court? Justice Secchi?
Thank you, Judge. Try not to have scattered questions all over the place. Magdalene Serenity Home, is this a national program or is this just a local program?
We are modeled off of Thistle Farms, which is a program that started in Tennessee, but there are more than 50 sister organizations, is what they call them. So there are programs that do similar work for vulnerable populations of women who've been incarcerated or face addiction or other trauma issues in their world.
Okay, and so the one in Fayetteville, this program is independent? Or are you all part of the same structure?
No, we are independent.
Okay. What is your rate of recidivism? Do you know what your recidivism rate is?
As of January 1st, it was 83% did not return and be re-incarcerated.
Okay. And secondly, you have other Magdalene homes around the country that tout that they do not receive any state or federal funding whatsoever, that they sustain themselves through working. I think one of them, like you mentioned, is the Thistle Farms, where they make their own soap. Is there anything, venture, that you can do here to sustain yourself as a nonprofit, as opposed to needing federal and taxpayer money to support you?
I think the difference in our area, which is why we decided not to monetize selling items or creating a revenue-based system like that, is because the need wasn't the same here for us to figure out a way to sell things. Women can work in our community, and that's actually the goal, for us to get them to a place where they're economically sound and stable, that they're getting the treatment that they need, and that they're integrated into the community, so they work in our local community.
But you also do local fundraising, don't you? You have.
Correct.
I've been a part of them.
Yes.
I think helping healing women there's a lot of groups that are out there, and you're to be commended. I am not going to be supporting this ordinance because of my background, which says, the FAA says, when you're in an emergency, don your oxygen mask first and then assist your child. And I believe that we need to help emergency services throughout Washington County that benefits every citizen in Washington County, help heal after a disaster, in the event of a disaster. And that is where I feel that this American Rescue money needs to go. And I'll be supporting Mr. Luther, Director Luther, and his efforts trying to find a home for his department. But I commend you, and go after those fundraisers. There's some deep pocket people in Fayetteville, and I hope you find them. Thank you.
Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you for being here. If I were a resident in Magdalene House right now, could you describe just what a normal day might be for a resident at your house? Or going through the program?
Yes, well, it depends on what phase that she's in the program. If she's just coming to us in phase 1, which is typically the first about 90 days, she would be working a comprehensive in-house program of recovery. We would be helping her with interviewing skills and how to talk about your past when looking for joining the workforce. But first of all, just laying that foundation of healing, catching up with medical and dental appointments, and getting established with the parole system and a mental health provider, getting identification documents. Many women come to us and they don't have their birth certificate or getting their driver's license reinstated. Many women come to us with many outstanding charges, and so we work throughout the phases to help them clean up their warrants and pay off fines and fees. And so then phase 2, and they're required to get a job and work at least part-time. And then the shift of focus becomes more budgeting and family reunification, if that's appropriate and safe for the child. And phase 3, we're really focusing on the reintegration into the community and the financial self-sustainability.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Thank you very much for all you do.
Justice Washington?
Thank you, Judge. And thank you all for being here today. I would really like to encourage all of my colleagues to really consider supporting this. I believe it was last summer I had an opportunity to actually visit the facility, and I will say that I was very impressed by how organized it was, how intentional every aspect of this program is. And actually, the day that I was there, none of the residents were there because they were all out working that particular day. So while these women are at the Magdalene Serenity House, they are also contributing to our economy because they are here working. I was very impressed with the reunification and all of that. And in my opinion, the $33,436 is a very small sum for the amount of work that they do. I was also privileged to attend their graduation ceremony. Was that last month? I think it was. And just to see all the wonderful things that they have done. What really impresses me the most is that they do ask for help from other agencies. They do have people to support them, and they make good use of those resources. So the fact that there is still a need, in my opinion, means that we really need to seriously consider supporting this. And I hope that we would all keep in mind that we know there are a number of things that we want to do with this ARPA money. And I hope that we don't feel like we only have to do one thing, and that we would seriously consider how we can do more than one thing. But I do believe that the women that have been incarcerated need the same types of services as those men at returning home have, which I've also visited and have been very impressed with as well. And I just want us to keep that in the forefront of our mind, that we want to make sure that there is parity and there is equity in the way that we provide resources for women who have been incarcerated in the same way for men that have been incarcerated. So I ask that we do support this, and I'll definitely be supporting it.
I've departed a little bit from what our regimen needs to be. Ms. Justice Hires, I don't think we ever received a motion on this, so can we take care of that real quick before we continue debate? Justice Hires?
Yes, I'd like to move that item, what's my item number?
13.1.
13.1 be moved to the quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you. I have a motion to pass item 13.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Hires, a second by Justice Washington. Thank you. Justice Rio Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. Our jail is overcrowded. It's a fact. It's something we all agree on, at least. I think we all just differ about what our solutions to that are. But I support anything that's going to reduce recidivism, especially if it is more cost-effective than having someone be in our jail. And this is a program that I believe helps with that, just as returning home is. And I did the math on this. With this money, this $33,436, there's 8 residents at this facility, and it's a 2-year program. Is that correct? That comes out to less than $175 a month per individual. We spend way more than $175 per month per individual for folks who are sitting in the jail. Way, way more than that. And so I see this as a cost-effective community partner for us, and I'll be supporting this.
Justice Pond?
Yes, thank you, Judge. I kind of, well, maybe I'm a little concerned about the direction this discussion is going. Maybe I'm not, but to look at it in the perspective that the taxpayers of Washington County are contributing more to these residents, much more than what this discussion is showing. The women's prison here in Fayetteville is I believe a minimum security, or anyway, it's nowhere near maximum. And the program at this facility here in Fayetteville, where the prison where these women are staying, is also doing everything it can to help these ladies get back on the right track. That facility, that building, Washington County actually facilitates. If I'm not mistaken, unless some of those agreements have been changed, that is county property that is being leased to the state for, I believe, $1 a year. That puts our taxpayers a long ways towards providing for these ladies to maybe get off on a better foot, a better track. And I'm just saying that to kind of, I'm looking at it from more of a, a broader scale. I'm looking at it, looking at the whole picture, you might say. To kind of make it, for people watching this meeting, understand that it's not quite as lopsided or one-sided as you might believe. At one time, we did consider taking that facility back because we were hurting for jail space and making that into the women's jail. And we did not do that because of the service that is being provided by the state for the women staying there. And what you're doing is also helping these ladies to get back in a kind of a position as a productive citizen. But like I said, I do want to kind of put it out there to newer people on the court that we provide much, much more to the women who come through that facility than the public realizes. And I'm just saying, I'm not going to be involved in any kind of a debate. I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions on this item? Justice Hires?
Thank you. Just one last thing that I want to throw out there. I added up the amount of interest that we have pulled from the ARPA fund since it's been there. That total comes to $505,745 since the creation of the fund, and this is just a fraction of that. I really hope that we can offer this minimal amount of support to these women. Magdalene Serenity House has come here multiple times and talked to us about their program. And like I said, I am not asking for the $1.9 million to put us in equity of like what Returning Home has received from the county. I'm just asking for the very small amount that they asked for in their application process. So I hope that we can get this passed. Thank you.
Any final comments here? Thank you very much. With that, we're going to take it to public comments. They might need your chair. Any public comments on item 13.1? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 13.1 to the full quorum court with a do pass recommendation by Justice Hires, a second by Justice Washington. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ms. Mason, will you please call a roll?
Coleman Taylor. David Wilson. Sean Simons. Kyle Lyons. Lisa Ecke. Charles Dean. Chandra Washington. Beth Koger. Robert Dennis. Suki Hires. Evelyn Rios Stafford. Willie Lemming. Gary Ricker. Butch Pond.
Item 13.1 fails. Item number 7 will be the next item up. It's an ordinance appropriating $4,857,232.54 from the ARPA fund to the ARPA fund budget for 2023. We have some guests for this item tonight. I would like to go ahead and introduce if they'd like to sit up here, and we'll grab them another chair. But this is a team that you guys are going to become familiar with. We at the county have become very familiar with them. So if you guys will come on up and join us, they're going to give you a presentation. We have something tangible to show you tonight for the Emergency Operations Center. And so they're going to walk us through that and kind of give you an idea of where we're at in the process. So to my left here is Trent Rogers. He's our construction supervisor from C.R. Crawford. In the middle is John Langham. He's our lead architect on this project. And his associate is Miss Elizabeth Stinnett. So they've worked very hard on this, and we're ready to present it. So with that, I'm just going to hand it off to you guys and chip in. Whoever wants to, please move the microphone to whoever. We have people listening online and then also people that need to hear up here. So, Mr. Langham.
Okay. Thank you, Judge, Court. Got the cozy chair here in the middle. So, so we're going to, I'm very excited and grateful to be here in front of you to discuss the Washington County Emergency Operations Center. We've been working on this project and a lot of thoughtful discussion and are really developing the plans with our partners with C.R. Crawford. And so to walk a little bit, I'd like to walk a little bit through the process of how we got to the plan. If maybe advance to the floor plan. Yes. Oh. There we go. So we initially started the process with a kickoff meeting with John Luther and his staff at Emergency Management at their facility out past Lincoln, and really talking through what they do, how they serve, and how they serve the county, both in a day-to-day capacity, and then also, maybe more importantly, as in an emergency activation capacity. And so we went through an interactive, intensive programming exercise where we looked at their needs, how this building can serve their department, and also the county the best way. We identified a need for so if you look at the plan here, so on the kind of the yellow shaded area is the Emergency Operations Center. Well, the entire building is Emergency Operations Center, but that's the hardened portion of the building, and then the portion to the front is the non-hardened portion of the building. So we really tried to. What we do during programming is listen to their needs, number of offices, how many people they need to facilitate, and then come up with assigned square footage to that. So really build that program off of their needs, and we also look for efficiencies during that process. So spaces that can serve more than one function. It may serve a different function in an emergency situation than it does on a day-to-day capacity. And then also how to divide those up. So how to be able to have, for instance, a conference in the front part of the building while the EOC's in operation. So So what? So really, through this process, we look for efficiencies. It's really the way where you can really save the most cost is early in the design process, really right sizing the facility and moving as much program. In this case, the EOC, which is on the back side of the kind of the yellow shaded area, so it's a hardened construction, meaning it can resist tornado events up to 250 miles an hour, which is the highest rating you can get through the ICC 500, which is the code we designed it to. And so what we really tried to do is get only the essential program in that area, because that's hardened construction. It has redundancy with the mechanical systems with the electrical, and so that's really your most expensive construction. So we really tried to isolate the program that went into that area in order to get you the best the best kind of bang for your buck as far as the being able to get as much program into this building. That part of the building, like I said, it's really your most expensive because you've got the hardened aspects, you have the redundancy, the technology, and then the front part is the non-hardened. So I don't know if you want. We put together a couple of animations. Well, yeah, these would be good. So this is a 3D image of how that building will sit on the side there at the South Campus, and so we really laid it out in the most logical way possible. So we have the non-hardened to the front, because that's your really more attractive construction. You know, your hardened facility is going to be a precast concrete box, which you kind of see on the back side. And then if you go to the next slide there, kind of see that from a different angle. And so the piece on the back is the hardened construction. The piece on the front is the non-hardened construction. And then the last image is kind of that front approach to the building. So if you have those animations, it'd be good to. So this is starting on the side of the facility. So this is the entry for the employees for the EOC. So you can see on the left side is the hardened construction, to the right side is the non-hardened construction. So this is coming in that employee entrance. So another thing we did is we separated the entrances so that you could utilize this entrance is behind a gate. So it's kind of secure parking for the employees. So this is as you walk into the Emergency Operations Center. And so to the left, then you'd go through this is be a rated door into a corridor, dispatch area on the left, restrooms. Restrooms to the left, dispatch to the right, and then into the Emergency Operations Center. So while this is running, another thing that we did is we toured other facilities and really asked some key questions about what they like about the facility, maybe what they don't like, what they wish they would have done differently. And so we toured projects both that our firm has done and projects that other firms have done. So this is the emergency operations room. And then the other animation takes you through the front. So this entrance is outside of the gated area, so it allows for people to get to the training room without having to go through the rest of the EOC. And so you come into a lobby. Coffee to the left there, very important, and restrooms, and into the training room. And so this is a need we identified that the county has for needing to be able to hold training sessions. This room would house, and so we also put a divider wall into it. So if it's split into 2 rooms, each room can hold about 45 people, combined a little over 100 people to be able to have training and then also kind of speaking of the multi-use, that room during an emergency activation could be used for like media. So they would stage in that room during an activation. So we really looked for ways to really multi-purpose as much of the facility as possible to make it as efficient as possible. And Trent's going to talk a little bit about the budget.
Sure. I'll add a little color to what John explained. We've been working hand in hand with the architectural team, with the judge, with Chief Johnson, to come up with a cost exercise that you see on the screen for that design. And so this is not a final number. We're early in the stages. We're probably, 30% through the design process at this point in the process. And so we're working hand in hand. We're working with the local subcontractor market to come up with kind of a high watermark cost of what this facility we feel like would cost. As John mentioned, it's a unique facility in that by nature, a lot of the components are expensive, especially in that hardened precast box area. You've got a lot of redundancy in that building. You have a backup generator. You've got multiple HVAC systems in case one goes down. There's a lot of technology in that room, and so just by nature, that's driving the budget, that one part of the building. And so what John was describing is we've done our best to try to condense that piece of the project so that our costs are a lot better. We've gone out to the market, subcontractor market. We've done takeoffs. We've not finalized any bids. This has not been finalized by any means. It's a very early budget stage. And so if you flip to that, yeah, you've got it on the screen there. So what we've come up with for you guys to kind of review and take note of, there's a lot of detail on one sheet, but there's a summary sheet that shows you what all is included in the project. You can see at the top of that sheet there, the construction costs are somewhere in the $7 million range to date, is what we're coming up with. And then the soft costs, which is your furniture, which is your architectural engineering fees, some technology fees for infrastructure back there, all that's included. So this is an all-in program budget right now for just over $8.2 million is what we're targeting. This includes all fees. This is an all-in budget. We feel like there's some efficiencies that we've yet to determine as we work through the design process. We're going to look at those, but what we wanted to present to you guys tonight is a total program budget so you can understand the impact that this facility will make, not only for budget, but for the community and for the county. So with that, we'll open it up for any questions, unless you want to add anything, Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, talk about the soft cost.
Yeah, so we really tried to get everything into this number just to kind of give you a better idea. So we worked through furniture, really how are these spaces going to be used and how will they function for different groups of people. We also took a hard look at the AV, so with the audio-visual and the EOC, it's really important that they're taking stats from all of these different places so that they can have the most up-to-date information. So we worked with some audiovisual people to make sure that we were getting them what they needed.
So with that, we'll open up to any questions you might have.
Any questions for our technical team? Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. You mentioned that the hardened area, the EOC, is structured to withstand an F5 tornado, correct?
Yes.
Or a 250-mile-an-hour storm.
That's correct, yes.
What about the rest of the structure?
No, so the rest of the structure is made to where it is not reliant on the two structures act independently. So the rest of the structure is not designed to withstand a tornado event, and the reason for that is that part of the building is extremely expensive. That is it's much more expensive. That
No,
has
I
the
understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, yes, it needs to be, but I would like to know how solid is the other structure is going to be built to withstand what? I mean,
Yeah.
the
So-
big bad wolf isn't going to huff and puff and blow it down, and there it goes.
Oh,
I mean,
right,
give me
right.
some context
Right.
into, the
Sure.
strength of this structure, please.
Yeah, so the other structure is designed, to commercial standards for commercial construction. It's a steel frame building with, brick, wainscot, and some metal panels. So the structures are designed in a way that they that one can be destroyed essentially, and the other completely function without any need to. For the
Yes,
two
I
to-
understand they're independent of
independent
one
of each
another.
other, yes, ma'am.
But I would, just trying to reconcile the strength of the other building, that's all. I mean,
Sure.
just
It's
trying to
probably a little bit
understand.
harder to quantify, but it would be a typical commercial office building is the other piece of the
Which
project.
is to withstand what?
Any tornado event would probably destroy
Blow
or
it down.
damage that facility, yes. That's right.
I think they're designed to, just like Trent's saying, just a standard commercial office building. And really that was a strategic move because, and we've designed other EOC buildings where we've done the same exercise where you determine what is essential for the EOC to operate. Because if you do the entire building to that level of hardened construction, first off, you'd have zero windows in any of your offices. You wouldn't have anything in for your training room, and also it would just be exponentially more expensive.
Sure, I guess I was hoping that this would go to is you're going to reassure the Washington County citizens and the court and everybody else that we are taking care of emergency services, and that's what this is about.
Absolutely.
And that is what is going to be standing.
That's correct.
Okay, that's
yes,
what I was
absolutely.
hoping we would get to. Okay, thank
Sure.
you.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. So the estimate you have here is 8.2 million. I believe you said you were 30% done with design. So you still have 70% of design to go. What's the confidence that this 8.2 will or will not increase when you get through that 70% of design?
In that 8.2, we've incorporated several allowances and contingencies for any kind of market increases that we might encounter over time through the design. And then we also feel like there's efficiencies that we've not yet to uncover as far as HVAC systems, structural systems, things like that, once we get some more market input. So we feel pretty confident with the way that we've budgeted this with contingency that we wouldn't or shouldn't increase over that 8.2 million.
Okay, thank you.
Justice Lemming?
Thank you, Judge. One thing I'd like to see I know it's way early in the stage and you got $31,000 in here for fencing, but to be fair to the road department, we need to put some kind of privacy fence between the road department and this EOC because you can't ask the road department to keep that shiny and pretty over there. So I think that we need to work on that number a little bit too in this process.
Yes, sir. And we do have a fence between the parking and the rest of the yard that the road department uses. Yes, sir.
Deal in there.
One thing that we've thought about is utilizing the road department for part of this project potentially, and that would be a potential cost savings to the project as well. So that's one thing we're thinking. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. Thank y'all for being here. A couple of questions about the design. This areaway, this white space on the right-hand side, can you explain to me what that is?
Yes, sir. So that is a mechanical areaway. It's essentially a walled area that will house the mechanical units and the generator that serve the EOC, the hardened construction. And so that's so facility is hit by a tornado, those are protected as well, so that your mechanical systems continue to operate, your generator's protected.
Okay. Is this kind of like, would serve as a secondary entrance if this employee entrance or I guess either of the employee entrances were made kind of moot in the case of a disaster event where this non-hardened structure was damaged, that no longer becomes an entryway?
That's correct,
designed
yes.
to be a secondary?
Yes, sir. That's
You're making a concrete box. You have more than one way in and out?
Yes, correct, correct. And that second way in and out is in the area way intentionally because it's a protected area. So, it's got a steel, basically lid on it to keep, so that second door is completely protected.
Cool. You mentioned a couple times the redundancy in IT, and I see the IT server room on there. To my colleague's point, I saw a line item in the expenses that it said it doesn't include the dispatch consoles, but does it include like the mainframes and the servers? Because obviously we need what we're doing here in the courthouse and other places in the county to be able to be duplicated there at that EOC as well.
That's right. So in the soft costs, we have the technology accounted for, and the IT, the mainframes for the servers, things like that.
So the big ticket items, just maybe not the consoles for the dispatch.
Correct. The consoles are actually, I believe, the county already has those or access some of those and access to more.
Awesome.
So that's another way to save cost, because those are very expensive.
Very cool. Last question. I think it was on maybe that video, but the parking area. So I'm trying to stretch my mind here. In the event of a disaster, and we had, cooperation between different municipalities and FEMA and everything like that. So I'm sure you guys have thought through all that. We're going to need a rather large parking area. Is that why that was intentionally so large, for not just the myriad of different personnel, but also maybe emergency vehicles and things like that?
That's correct, yes. And also that yard is directly adjacent to it as well. So that's even a potential for more overflow, directly adjacent. So the reason we laid it out on the far east side of that property was exactly that reason.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Justice Dean?
Thank you, Judge. I just have one question here. For the additional parking, if our county department could handle that, is it something they could do?
Yeah. So to explain that line item a little bit, there is a sizable parking lot, 30 or 40 cars, kind of across the drive from the main entry, that is included in the budget number of 8.2. What we were asked to do is, if we duplicated that, that's that additional cost that's line item there, that if we duplicated that amount of parking on site, it'd be an additional 70-something thousand. So, but we do have a pretty good sized parking lot in the current budget that we could have the county do the work for. Absolutely, the road department.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'll just say too, with the fencing and the parking lot, we're trying to ID a lot of things that our road department or we might have expertise in-house on, and so we're actively doing that. Don't know that we have anything hard yet at this point in the design process, any hard plans on where we would use them for sure. So, any other questions for our design team here? Justice Dennis?
Just a simple one for me. I'm trying to study that a little bit. On your 3D map here, which direction's north and which is west?
So on
I'm
this,
driving at something on this, so go ahead.
yes, sir. So on this plan, north is to the right. So if you go to that next image, it might be a little. Yes. So does that help seeing it in that?
It does, and in this particular photograph, you see like the boxy gray area, which is the EOC. That's north.
Okay.
And so I don't know, for those people who've been on the down regularly to the road department, but there's that large curve that eventually meets into the road department yard, and that's that curve over there to the right. So this building will face almost right down Clydesdale, right there.
Well, I know there's not been a tornado there in our lifetime, but to me, I'll ask the question, you can tell me. Which direction do tornadoes come from in northwest Arkansas?
Typically the west, I believe.
So why would you not put the box, the first thing that the storm hits, so that it'll protect the other building a little bit?
Well, I mean, the structure, I think, would perform similarly regardless of which direction we orient it, if that makes sense. But it's something.
Well, tornadoes do unusual things.
They do. It's hard to predict. Maybe typically from the west, but I don't know.
And I'm not a professional on it by any means, but maybe ask some weather people. Is that the right place to put it? If you put the strongest building first, then the storm hits it, it moves it away, and then the other building survives. Yeah,
Sure.
but most of them come out of the west, I'm betting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's something we could definitely look at.
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was trying to figure out why you were doing it the way you were. So.
Yeah, sure.
Because
Yeah.
I see all the building on the right, all the windows are facing to the west, and if the storm comes from, most of the storms come from the west, then your exposure is greater on that building because of it.
Yep.
That's all. Ask someone that knows. Don't.
I think I'm more worried about all that junk laying off there to the west that we're going to pick up and make into projectiles. Yeah. Justice Lyons. I'm sorry, you finished? Okay. Justice Lyons?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Judge. Actually, I think this is more of a question for you. So we've got an estimate of 8.2 million. This ordinance appropriates 4.8 million.
Yep.
Can you help us understand what this covers and how we proceed throughout?
This
what
covers
the thought process is, the process.
Because we are far enough along in the process to where I want to get a good sizable chunk of funding so that we can continue the work. We are not so far in the process that I thought, regardless of what we do, we're going to have to come back to the quorum court for the remainder of the funds. And I think we've done a really good job of designing this building and trying to give it as much utility and efficiency as it can, but it got expensive for a lot of reasons, like they're saying, the redundancy, the hard. So long story short, what I'm saying is my instructions were to give you guys the high water mark, and we are going to do everything we can to chisel away at that. And so that's my thought, is if we were going to have to come back with another second additional ordinance, that we would have a better, more focused amount at that time.
Okay.
One of the things I'll mention is we've said they're going to continue to look for efficiencies in the design and the construction materials. We're going to try to ID places where our road department can really help out, where we could put some manual labor into it. I will also mention there are grants specifically for Emergency Operations Center that we've already gotten Dr. Russell started on that she can look at. So I'm hopeful that we can make up some of this funding gap. We've had some success with grants lately. But those are the reasons why. Those are the reasons why.
Okay, no, that all makes sense, but how far do we think this will get us? Is this going to get us through design and into construction?
Yes,
Or
absolutely.
Where do we think
Yeah.
this will get us?
This will
before
get
we
us
need to-
roughly
We need to reconsider.
40,
with the more
50%
detail.
through construction. I mean, I would say we're probably through, we're through the first quarter next year probably before we would timing-wise be back to you guys. Now, what I will also say is, while we're trying as very hard as we can to make efficiencies, I think we would have to get comfortable with that 8.2 number and say, what if the worst happened? And that's what we will have to take that out of our savings account, which, I'm still a fan of this project and bring it to you, ladies and gentlemen, for a reason.
Okay.
And we're going to work very hard to try to chip away at that cost, but.
Thank you, Judge.
Sure.
Make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. I believe I heard second by Justice Pond. Are there any other discussions or questions for our design team? If not, I'd like to give Director Luther just a quick moment to come up here and just share any of his thoughts if he wants to. And thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. They've been putting in a lot of hard work, and we appreciate them. Director Luther, what's on your mind, you think?
Well, it's hard to follow the good information that they provided. I will be glad to. Is that better? It's a little overwhelming. The county needs an emergency operations center. In spite of me, in spite of any of you all, our citizens deserve that. We have not had one for many years. We didn't have one for many years. Historically, when I look back, we first started going to use a conference room at Central Emergency Medical Services down on South School. And they grew into such a larger organization that we couldn't do that anymore. And the University of Arkansas said, Washington County, you can come to our EOC, which is not hardened, and you can partner with us in a crisis. And they've grown and they've grown and they've grown. And so we ended up at the old juvenile detention center, which was later changed to the crisis stabilization unit. And then we moved over to the annex across the street, certainly not hardened. We did have a generator. And so after that, facility was needed for other county business. We're in Lincoln. And for offices, that's fine. To your point, those offices aren't hardened. They could be damaged in a storm. But that doesn't change the fact that we still need a hardened facility to do the business of the county prior to, during, and after a disaster. Whether I'm the one doing it or whoever follows me, it's important that they have a place that the elected officials, the decision makers, the leadership of the emergency services as a whole can come and make collective decisions on the best way to care for the public. And so I hope that we can do this. As I told you, Judge, and Chief Johnson and John and the others, there's no flair with me. I'm pretty good with basic stuff. I just want it to function. Not saying that we want to do something that's ugly or cheap. That's not it at all. I think we have to have certain things that are unfortunately expensive. Surprisingly, it's less than I expected. You look around the country, you visit emergency operations centers, and all of those jurisdictions have made a large investment to have just a great emergency operations center that they can count on. So I hope we can continue to support it, and we will do our very best to utilize it both day in and day out, as well as during a crisis, to support you and the county and do our best to take care of you, as I said before, or during, or certainly after a disaster.
You know, I'll just say, I love working around our first responders because there's so much collaboration and mutual aid in that community. And why I guess I'm so bullish on this project is, especially coming in and trying to get a judge's administration off the ground, I was told very early on the county is in the unique position to lead emergency response within our county. We've got some great municipalities with some very talented people, but we are uniquely tasked with that. And I think it's time that we stand up and honor that obligation to our municipalities and every citizen in this county. Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. There were some letters sent out late today from yourself and Ms. Sabrina that were provided to us from the Arkansas Public Safety Department, Fayetteville, Fire Chief, Springdale, and the EMS, and I think they're good. I specifically, when I look at the Fayetteville Fire Chief's letter, his second paragraph, I think, is dead on the whole reason we need this EOC. I mean, it's point blank, and he talks about going up to Joplin to help them out, and basically having all these people there to help them from, FEMA and different localities, et cetera, but no way to coordinate them. So you really can't get the help to the people that need it. And that is what the EOC is all about. Correct me or add, but to me, they were very good letters. Appreciate them writing them in support of the EOC. I thought that paragraph was just dead on what the EOC is all about. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yes, sir. Justice Lemming?
John, you know, we've always talked about millions and millions of dollars in grant fund. Kind of tell this horseshoe how many grants and how much money you kind of go through a year that's grant money for everything that happens at the EOC, like the bomb, like the, you know, just different things.
Well, the county is the facilitator for different grant programs that come to the county. Excuse me, and then we're host for those, and then they go to the various response agencies, whether it be law enforcement, fire, different agencies that do regional work, if you will, for the state. And so there's a lot of grant funds out there. Unfortunately, there's not been historically grant funds for emergency operations centers. It's typically for training and equipment for those response teams, and typically that's always got a nexus of terrorism. Those are through the Department of Homeland Security, and those are, they're very helpful. I know Fayetteville Fire Chief is here. Some of the things that his agency is able to do in partnership with us and the state is to perform certain tasks related to emergency response for USAR or Chem Bio, different things like that. So those grants are very helpful, but just unfortunately they can't do anything for us in this regard.
Well, it's in millions of dollars. but talk a little country boy style, like what you really do down there. I mean, kind of like, you know, you swiftwater rescue and you go to schools and train for active shooting and just the events you do, and it happens out of that office. It's just, you know, it's just not just a building for us to go look at. There's a lot of things that these folks don't have a clue that happens at that building and that facility.
Yeah, it's very important to have a place to train. It's also important to have a place to meet as a larger body, not just our office. You know, we're a small part of emergency services. The emergency services providers, I think, are better and stronger when we can more frequently meet and work and train together. Our county is very blessed in the fact that our people want to do that. Our emergency service providers in the field are very, very cooperative and proactive in that regard.
I just wanted to say, though, when you say people come in, it's just not people from Springdale and Fayetteville. It's people from the federal government, FBI, it's the CIA. It's people that we don't have a clue what they are and what they're doing here. And they're coming to Fayetteville, Arkansas. And for them people to come to, they have to have it in Fayetteville because you have hotels and motels up here. You can't have it in Lincoln like you are. We love you out there. We want to keep you out there, but I know you need to come to town to get to where you can. These folks, when they come in from the federal government side of it, they need to have a good place to stay and rest. But there's just not little peons comes to this town. It is very, very important people from high up the ladder that comes to this EOC to do their business. So that's another real big reason why that is. It's very important.
One of the examples of our county hosting and having prior built relationships is our relationship with the State Emergency Management Division. And prior to the 2009 ice storm, they asked if we would host the generator supply for the region, and we were able through the road department and our office to do that to support FEMA in their delivery of generators so that those could go all over the community. And I think that's an example that the state knew they could reach out to Washington County because, one, we're going to do everything we can to help, whether it's within our own county or those around us. And that was something that I remember, that generator fleet came in truck after truck after truck, and, you know, we thought, how bad is it actually going to be? And ultimately that paid dividends for places that were able to keep their water systems on and other critical infrastructure because of those generators being here, and security provided by the sheriff's office. Just a lot of things where that cooperation was very, very important, and that got us through that disaster, certainly in ways that people might not see, but those things were out there working on their behalf.
And a lot of that happens is because Washington County is 954 square miles, and we're the 4th largest county in the state of Arkansas. And that's why they want you to host things, and that's why they're looking at us to have good representation up here for all this. So, thank you, John.
You're welcome. Sorry, I got coughing. Sorry.
Justice Simons?
Call the questions.
I have a motion to call the question by Justice Simons. Anybody? Second by Justice Lyons. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Ms. Mason, will you please call the roll?
Coleman Taylor? No. David Wilson? Yes. Sean Simons? Kyle Lyons? Lisa Ecke? Yes. Charles Dean? Yes. Chandra Washington? No. Beth Koger?
No.
Robert Dennis?
Yes.
Suki Hires?
No.
Evelyn Rios Stafford? No. Willie Lemming?
Yes.
Gary Ricker?
Yes, ma'am.
Butch Pond?
That motion fails. Justice Koger?
Yes, I'm excited about this. I mean, I think it looks great, and I want this very much for the county, and I want to support it. But I need someone, I need my colleagues, I need the judge, I need somebody to help me understand. The way I see this, we're buying, it's like buying a house that we really, really want, but we don't know how we're going to pay for all of it. And excuse me, my voice is. I mean, can someone help me understand that? Because we're appropriating whatever the 4.6 million, but that's going to leave around $3.5 million to $4 million that we don't know how where's that money going to come from? Someone said savings, but do we have that kind of money in savings? And do we want to? I mean, I just need help understanding how we're being physically responsible to go forward with a project like this without knowing where all the money's going to come from. Because I wouldn't go out and buy a car or a house without knowing that I was going to be able to come up with the rest of the money. And another thing that's kind of scary, and maybe I misunderstood this part, but somebody said something about, well, it would get us through the first quarter maybe, but and then someone said something about construction, but we're not going to go out and start digging and building without knowing where every penny is coming from, are we?
We know exactly how we're going to pay for it. What we're telling you is we're going to go and try to make it cheaper. The additional money would have to come out of our reserves account, which I believe is appropriate for a capital project like this. And so the final rebuttal to you is, yeah, even if the worst case happens and we're paying $8.3 million for this building, I don't know what those percentages are off the top of my head, but we're getting an $8.3 million emergency operations center with 70% of it paid for.
Okay, so if we took the rest of the money out of reserves today to do that, how much would that leave in reserves?
12 million, roughly. I don't have that number in front of me.
Okay, one other thing then that help me understand this. This is ARPA money, and it has to be obligated by December 31st of next year. So if we proceed with this ordinance and pass it tonight, that money will be obligated for this project, okay? But if we decide that if something happens or for whatever and it comes in way over budget, anything happened that we decided not to go forward with this project, what would happen to that money? Would we be able to get it back bring it back in?
We're going to put this money into dirt. We're going to build this building with this money. I'm going to start building this building as soon as this money is appropriated. Good. Are any other questions? Justice Lyons?
Clarification. So the treasurer told us early, we got 14.8 million left in ARPA that's not obligated or extended.
4.8.
4.8, no.
And you remember, you have already appropriated $1 million to this project, okay, which the lion's share of that's still left.
That's fine.
Yep.
I just misread one.
Yeah. So we will dedicate roughly 5.8 million of ARPA money to this EOC total. Any other questions for our group here? If not, we're going to open it up for public comments. I appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Are there any public comments on this item? Seeing none, I have a motion to pass item 7.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Pond. All those in favor? Those opposed? Item 7.1 will move to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. Item number 8, an ordinance recognizing additional revenue in the amount of $74,533.93 in the general fund and appropriating $74,533.94 from the general fund to the various line items in the Buildings and Grounds budget for 2023. Our long nightmare of the basement being flooded is almost over. And so this is another tranche of funds from that insurance settlement. This one covered our depreciable costs and also some of the IT equipment that we lost that we were proving loss on. So this is money coming into us. We're allocating that back out to the Buildings and Grounds so they can continue to pay these bills. Justice Lyons?
Make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
Motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by, I believe I heard Justice Simons. Any further discussion or questions on this item? Any public comments on item 8.1? I have a motion to pass item 8.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Simons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 8.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item number 9, an ordinance appropriating $60,000 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the county coroner's budget for 2023. I believe I see our deputy coroner back there. Sir, would you like to come speak to this and introduce it? Put you on the spot.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Judge.
Yes, sir.
Court. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Mike Neville. I work for Roger at the coroner's office. I'm his chief deputy. What we're looking to do is purchase another truck. We were budgeted back in 20 pre-COVID for a truck. COVID hit and we needed some other utilities as a addition to the building and a cooler for a morgue cooler, and that Judge Wood and Roger got together on that, and that took the truck money, which was needed at the time. We got through with the vehicles that we had. We got a new vehicle. Actually, we got 2 vehicles in the last 2 years. We've still got 2 older vehicles that are in fleet. We got a 2012 Tahoe that's at 100,000 miles, a 2014 that's got 125 on it, and then we've got a 17 Dodge Ram that's our transport truck that's upwards of 100,000. The vehicle that we're looking at is a demo from Federal Signal, which is the same truck. The last truck we bought was a demo truck, which this one's got 5,000 miles. It's a new truck with the used category. The pricing on it, it's set in straight out $60,000 delivered. This truck is equipped with all the emergency equipment. There's not going to be any additional funding needed to equip it and get it roadworthy. It's ready to go, and it's actually the right color. It matches our colors of our other ones. Again, that's what knowing that the budget's what it is. We don't want to. Roger wasn't trying to come in and ask for more money, but we were back in, I think it was 21. The court told him that they wanted to upgrade our vehicles to where we were getting a couple a year to get rid of the older vehicles, and we're only at 2 new ones now. So that's kind of where we're at on that.
Justice Lemming?
Okay, the budget in 2022, you had $60,000 for a truck, and budget 2023, you had $50,000. So you bought 2 new trucks, one in 22 and one in 23?
Yes, sir.
So you did buy a truck in 23 for that $50,000 we budgeted you?
Yes, sir, we did. Yeah.
So you're asking for another 60 on top of the 50?
That's correct, and that'll hold us over until we'll use our other vehicles into 25. We won't be asking for money in 24. This truck just came available, and it's a demo that we don't have access to all the time, and as we know, trucks are hard to find, and with this one coming available, it's an opportunity that doesn't come often.
Justice Hickey?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to make a motion. We pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke. I heard second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion? Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a budget request for 1 or 2 vehicles for 2024.
Not in 24, no, so there's not we did not put a budget request in for 2 vehicles. We didn't put any budget request in because we didn't know when this vehicle was gonna come to fruition.
Okay.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you, Judge. Can you remind me, how many vehicles do you have?
We've got 5 vehicles right now. Oh, and I failed to mention, I'm glad you brought that up, sir. We've got a Ford Explorer that is a low mileage vehicle. It's been hasn't been driven. It doesn't really affect our needs. We can't haul transport in it. It's 20-something thousand miles that Roger has talked to Sheriff Cantrell about, and we'll be most likely donating that vehicle to the sheriff's office. So that would take one out of our fleet that would be replacing with this other one as well.
Okay, so you got 5. 3 of those are older vehicles to be replaced at some point. The rest of them have been replaced after this.
That's
point.
correct, sir.
So with this one, it would take you to 2 older ones to be replaced. You said 2025 and.
Yes, sir. One of them we have as a spare vehicle in case of a breakdown. And if we have a situation where we need part-timers coming in to use them, we've got one spare vehicle for that, and that's our older Tahoe.
Okay.
And then the other Tahoe is actually a first-out vehicle that they're using now.
It sounds like the $60,000 price tag for this vehicle, because it's a demo, is less than if we went out to buy it outright, brand new.
Yes, sir. That's exactly
And
correct.
what is that number, brand new?
The vehicle, this particular vehicle that we're talking was $65,000 new, and then it's got $8,000 to $10,000 worth of upgrade equipment in it, as far as the radio equipment, lights and sirens and stuff that's needed for.
So 75 grand.
70, yes, sir,
If we were going to
approximately.
get it as it is now versus getting the demo at 60.
That's correct.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion or comments by the court? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments on item 9.1? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 9.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 9.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item number 10, an ordinance amending the animal shelter budget for 2023 and other matters pertaining thereto. This is us continuing to try and find efficiencies in our staffing. What this ordinance does is it basically deappropriates and dissolves a position of kennel superintendent, and it adds a vet tech position for the animal shelter, which is a position that they think they need in higher, demand than the kennel superintendent. And so the ordinance gets a little bit complicated, but this will actually return some money back to the general fund. We're eliminating a position for $6,130.26, and the new position for the rest of the year will add $5,568.43. Justice Lyons?
So we currently don't have a vet tech, so all the vet services we get is outsourced. Is that correct?
That's correct. Is that not correct? Justice Director Ledgerwood, you want to come speak to this? Don't get me in trouble.
So currently what we have is a kennel superintendent. She is holding the role of superintendent, which oversees all kennel personnel, in addition to the vet tech position. Me vacating the animal shelter moved her into the assistant director's role. So we're in an effort to streamline operations and save money, we are taking away her title. She's still going to be doing a dual role as assistant director and kennel superintendent under the assistant director title, and we're putting into practice the vet tech position. We've had the vet tech position since opening. We just didn't have it filled because we had someone else doing a dual role. She's still doing a dual role, just not the vet tech role. Okay, so she's still overseeing and managing everything. We just need the vet tech to come in to actually oversee the clinic operations.
Okay, but how do we get vet services today?
We contract veterinary services.
Okay, that,
The vet tech is in-house, that saves us a ton of money to have it in-house, but the actual veterinarian we contract with.
okay, that was my question. The second question is, this change already in 2024, or is this going to be a change in 2024 as well to the budget we've been looking at?
It will change in 2024 as well, and there will be a cost savings in 2024. Yes, a cost savings in 2024.
So that, we'll see, just make sure I understand that, we'll see your 2024 budget decrease from what it is today for that cost savings.
That
is
is
what I'm
correct.
understanding, correct? Okay. I make a motion, we pass this on to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion or questions for Director Ledgerwood?
You bet.
Seeing none, any public comments on item 10.1? With that, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 10.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 10.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item number 11, an ordinance amending the road department budget for 2023 and other matters pertaining thereto. This ordinance is asking for $64,058.84 from the unappropriated reserves in the road department. We've reached to where we want to replenish our culverts to supply some of the work we're going to be doing over the winter to ready roads for work next spring. Justice Secchi?
Just to reiterate, this is coming out of the roads department fund, not general fund.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Justice Lyons?
But is that what this says?
Yes, I believe it does. Article 1, $64,058.84 from the unappropriated reserves in the road department fund.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I did not have a motion yet. Justice
The motion,
Lyons?
we pass it to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, second by Justice Dean. Any other comments or discussion on item number 11.1 by the court? Any public comments on item 11.1? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 11.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 11.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item 12.1, an ordinance establishing the Washington County annual budget for the fiscal and calendar year 2024. I believe the way we will start with this is, if you're prepared, Comptroller Story will bring you up to kind of give an overview of the budget, and then we'll let you, we'll let the court ask questions.
Well, we're getting down toward the end of this process, and I had enough information to provide a hard copy for all of the justices of the summary page out of our budget system that categorizes by department and by general fund and then by the other funds, and also over in the right side of the page has a memo only prior to quorum court vote of those items that are either personnel in nature or capital expenditure. And you'll see on your, in the electronic version that they're underlined, so you're able to click on those and go to the justification documentation that's provided by the various departments for those. You'll notice on the right-hand side that there's a green bar. That is the county treasurer's information The first number being down at the total in the general fund, and that's because he budgets only by fund and not by department. So you see that in blue column T, that's just to the left of the green bar on the report, is totals out on the general fund to be 53 million. Let's see, 53,088,000. And that is the projected if all budget requests are made or are approved. In the green bar in line row 53, and that's column L2, is 55,195,191. That is the treasurer's estimate of revenue. So the amount that's remaining is unappropriated is 2,106,616, which is a significant improvement for last month when we looked at this. Primarily because I had made an error in actually recording some of the personnel costs as if they had been approved by vote, and they were also in the memo only column in these pink columns. And when I corrected those, then it gave us an additional bump in the unappropriated numbers, as well as there was Sheriff's Department went back and sharpened their pencil a little bit more and came up with an additional benefit to the unappropriated amount, which brought us up to the 2,106,616 that's in row 53, column L2. It's the brown box on the first page. Looking further down, I don't know that we need to spend any time, Judge, if you don't want to, on any of the other non-general funds at the moment.
We'll leave that to the pleasure of the court. I know that last time we seemed to circle in on that general fund number in that section, but if you guys would like for comptroller to cover anything, please just offer up the question. He'll be ready to field however he can. Justice Lyons, did you?
Thank you, Judge. So what is the state? Is this final, or are there more changes to be made? That a new one will be sent out to us. Will this one be sent to us tomorrow, or are there more changes and that one will be sent to us?
To my knowledge, there are no more changes to be made at this point.
Okay.
Of the request and of the documentation. There was a comment before the session tonight requesting some additional documentation on the additional road department positions requested. I believe there's 10, and those are included in the personnel request column, which is in row 59, blue row 59, and it's in column M. There's 1,422,001. That is everything that's under the memo only, which is column M over to column L2, is all either revenue estimates or basically it's column M and column N for capital expenditures and personnel additional requests.
Thank you. So if we go down to, I think, row 96, 97, sorry, blue T, 112, 416, 325. That's the new overall 2024 budget. Is that correct?
If everything was approved, column T.
If everything was approved.
If everything was approved, it'd be column T would be effectively the final budget. And those numbers that are in the column M and N would move over to be in columns F2 and column G as being approved numbers.
Okay.
To move toward the final budget. So, yes, sir, that's correct.
So if my notes are correct, and I don't promise that, I think the last one we saw, we were right at 112 million. So we went up to 416,000 and some odd cents. Do we know what that increase is for? Just curious, without diving through the detail.
I understand the 112 million, but I didn't quite understand your question is what.
So the last version we had, I think the total budget was 112 million. This one is 112, 416, 325.
Mhm.
Do I have incorrect notes that the 112 was really more than 112, or have we increased from last time to this time 416,325 into the 2024 budget?
Well, I believe the 112 is the closest number that I have available. 112, 416, 325 is I believe this has got everything in it from what information I have from everybody.
And so what is the process? I mean, this ordinance is to pass this on to the full quorum court to consider as the budget. But we have several items in the memo areas that haven't been approved. Do those get taken up individually within the quorum court, or how does that work?
You can do that however is your pleasure as the court. So I believe I would like an independent motion made. You could motion to put all of the memoed requests in at once, if that's what you would like to do, or you can take them up singularly one by one. Eventually, my goal would be we need to get very comfortable to send this to the full quorum court, have it finally drafted into an ordinance.
Okay, thank you. A couple of notes that I've made over the last several weeks, and given the difference in numbers, I may be a little off. But if we look at the things that are not, we can't control. Ambulance, got to have for public safety. Property insurance, health insurance. There's $5.6 million in this budget for the buildings and ground that is specifically to repair for storm damage that we've gotten claims back from insurance to pay for. And to some degree, the election commission, because we're going into a presidential election, right? If you add those up, that's $8,212,455.20 based on the last version. Again, just got this today, so I haven't updated this. So that's 54% of the $15 million increase in funds that we identified last time. It just kind of puts it a little bit into more perspective of the increase where we have control over. We're more around 9.4 million, okay? Which if you look at the history, which I got from the comptroller, is not too far off from what we've seen trending over the last 4 or 5 years. So it just puts it into a little different perspective, and I just wanted to share that information with my colleagues. The other question I had is, I know previously I think we had the Sheriff's Department was proposing some increases in step due to losing personnel and having to replace those personnel. So based on the adjustments that you guys have made, do you have an estimate of how many people do you expect to lose over the 2024 based on what you've put in and solidified for this version? You have any estimates to that? Sorry.
No, it's all good. Greg Tabor, Chief Deputy at the Sheriff's Office. I'm not sure I understood your question, so let me just start at the beginning, and if I don't get there, you can ask again. So you heard the comptroller say that we had sharpened our pencil. So how we sharpened it, and that's actually the second time we sharpened it. The first time we sharpened it, I think it was before you guys even saw it. The second time we sharpened it, what we done is we took where we believe salaries should be to be competitive with Springdale, Rogers, and all those, so we can be competitive, and we just cut that in half. So what you see in this 2024 proposed budget is what we believe half of our salary increases should be. And if I remember the number correctly, that was cut about $600,000 out of it.
And then the whole purpose in this is, to your point, to stop the attrition from the Sheriff's Department of trained individuals to other departments in the area that are paying higher wages.
Right. I think we've had some conversation. You know, it costs in the ballpark of around $55,000 from the time you hire somebody till you time to get them out on the street. So yes, I think we've got several people, and I've talked to some of you about it, that are just kind of waiting to see what happens. I know we've heard talk about somebody going to Springdale. We've heard talk about somebody going to state police. And obviously, we don't want to get in a situation where the county is typically always paid lower than municipalities, but we're talking about $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000 or $5,000. Now we're to a point we're talking about $20,000 or $25,000 a year. Well, as much as I love the county, I'm probably not going to stay for $20,000 or $25,000 a year less money where I might have for $4,000 or $5,000. So, yes, I mean, we've got to stay competitive, or we're going to end up with the police officers and the deputies that nobody else wants, and that are what we refer to as gypsy cops.
Well, and we're training people for other departments at $55,000 a person.
Right. We did. I can't remember the number. I wish I'd have brought that, but I think over the last 12 months we've had 33 people go to other agencies. So did I get there with your question?
Close.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to understand is, with what you've got, do you have an estimate of that 33 over the last 12 months? Will that go down? And will it be cut in half? Will it be 15? I mean, we're never going to get 100%. Nobody leaves, right?
Right. I mean, I think that would only be speculation, but I think obviously not only do we have Fayetteville, Springdale, Rogers, Bentonville pay more for us, now we've got Prairie Grove, the university. So I think, I don't think I can give you that number, but what I can say is the more competitive we are with those places, the less people will lose.
Okay. So basically, the $600,000, I think you said you saved as you sharpened your pencil.
Josh, was that the number?
Close enough? 600,000?
Yeah, it's somewhere in that ballpark. I looked at it right before I came up here, but I
So
forgot what it was.
At the $55,000 we pay to train them, that's 10 people.
That would be correct.
Okay?
Ballpark, yeah.
So just trying to, the perspective of, as we lose more and more and more, we're actually paying more and more and more. You leave 12, 15, whatever, you're paying more ultimately to bring in new people, maybe not as qualified, and doing that training, and then, somebody else gets the advantage of that.
That would be correct,
It's
yes.
just the way to look at where
That's
we're at.
correct.
On that. So. Last comment I have, because looking at this, I went through what I went before, because quite honestly, and I think talking to my colleagues, others have this opinion, if you look down through the individual budgets, there's not a lot of increase there that's not needed, quite honestly. I mean, I can go through there and it's nickel and dime, right, on those increases. So really where we're getting hit is overall things that we don't control, that we just have to pay for to be able to do business as a county. And I think right now we're at a point, I'd rather see that 2 million to Treasurer's point to be 3, but I think we've came up quite a bit, and I don't know where else we cut. Unless you just figure it out and do across the board cut, and I'm not real sure we want to do that. But if we go with this budget, everybody in the county, elected officials, directors, et cetera, have to understand, this is my first year on the court, but we passed a whole lot of stuff my first year on the court through unappropriated funds. We as a court have to hold, and that's not going to happen next year. It can't happen. Your budget, I remember January, February, people coming through and said, oh, this was forgotten in the budget. Oh, if it's not in the budget, man, don't expect it. That's my recommendation to everybody out there with where we're at, personally. Not real sure the motion we need, but I think we're at a point to move forward. So I'll make a motion that we pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. I don't know how detailed I need to get with the memo.
To include all the memo spending?
I think we do everything, because that's the numbers I've been looking at. I think that's where we need to be.
So I would say, I have a motion to pass the budget to the full quorum court to include all the requested spending.
Yes.
By Justice Lyons. Second. And a second by Justice Dean. Yes, Justice Ecke?
It's with a due pass recommendation.
Only because I forgot to say that.
Oh,
So,
okay.
with a due pass
It is,
recommendation.
okay, I know that.
I'm sorry.
But that's the clarification that I needed.
Okay.
Because if it's a due pass recommendation, then there's not going to be any discussion on it. We're just going to pass the whole thing.
Only if it's put on the consent agenda.
Okay,
So, I mean, I think, to me, the do pass recommendation is something that we add to it, just to have that language
Okay.
and that influence on it.
you're right. I'm getting a little tired right now, so it's the consent agenda thingy. I thank you, Judge, for clarifying.
Justice Simons, please help me. I turned off your mic by accident. Can you please cue it back up? Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. My colleague kind of beat me to the punch, but I do want to reiterate this. Guys, it's not always the budget we pass that gets us in trouble. It's the throughout the year, nickel here and a dime here and a couple $100,000 there. And so in the past, I've sat out in the peanut gallery and thought, man, that quorum court just sure does spend a lot of money. Maybe I need to get on there. And well, now on this side, I understand. We get in a hard spot, and we hear our directors and our electeds that feel like they have needs and they come before us. But at some point, we're going to have to kind of take that accountability on ourselves and really buckle down, because it's not necessarily the budget we pass. It's the spending throughout the year. And based off of 2023, we had $25 million more than what we budgeted. Like, we got to be better stewards of our taxpayer funds and not continue to put ourselves in this kind of position year over year over year. It's not sustainable.
We authorized $25 million.
The original budget was 97 million and change, and then the amended was 122.
Further discussion on, or questions on the budget? Justice Lemming?
Judge, could you give me some clarification or give me some reasons why we need 10 new employees?
Justice Lemming's referring to the 10 new employees that we've requested in the road department. 2 major drivers for that in my mind, and if Chief Johnson wants to come in and supplement anything I say, we can certainly do that. One of the goals that we've had is to duplicate our paving crews. Right now, our paving crew and the gentleman doing tile work is the same crew, so we can't do both jobs at the same time. So this will give us more manpower in that direction. The other thing I'll continue to reiterate is that we have gotten extremely behind on road maintenance over the last few years, and we have dug ourselves a hole that we're now trying to have to dig out of. And so we're here to support that, the road department and their work. Of course, assuming this continues to get good support from the quorum court, we'll continue to monitor that staffing level. But as of right now, I think we've got plenty of work to do to put some men and women to work, and that's what we're aiming to do. Chief Johnson, did I do that justice? All right, Chief Johnson.
So with the 10 employees, how many vehicles we're going to have to come up with for them 10 employees?
We haven't assigned any of them vehicles yet.
Well, do you think you'd have some to assign, or you think we're asking?
Yeah, I don't see a great expense there on going out and buying 10 new pickups or anything like that. We've got several automobiles down at the road department that I think will be sufficient, and we might implement some carpooling. Who knows?
Well, our capital purchasing list is really big. It's a lot of money too. I mean.
Well, let me sum this up, and I think we're just going to have to get to a point where we agree to disagree, because I know you don't agree with what I do in the road department. I know you don't agree with the road department's leadership. I've duly noted all that. But let me make this very clear. The taxpayers are paying us that money through a dedicated road tax. I think they expect a certain amount of results. I don't think we've met that threshold over the last probably 3 or 4 years. And so I feel very much obligated to take a tax fund that's dedicated for that very purpose and do the best we can with it.
I don't disagree. I mean, you know, and I know, we all know that our road department, not our road department, like you said that our maintenance is way behind, and we've been, and I know why it's way behind, and you do too, is because we try too hard to pave roads and we try too hard to chip seal roads, and then our maintenance gets left behind. And I understand if that's what the 10 employees are, to make another division in the road department, it makes good sense.
Yeah.
But
you know, I think we have the road department on the right track. I pray about it every night before I go to sleep, because it was made very clear to me when I assumed this office that roads will make or break a county judge, whether that be Washington County or anywhere around this state. So I feel a lot of pressure to deliver on that. I really, really do. And I don't know if that helps you make your decision, but that's why we had that staffing requested in there, and that's why we think it's a good thing for the county.
Thank you.
Justice Lyons?
Thank you. So on that conversation, I was scrolling trying to find this comptroller. I think the last one we saw, the road department compared to the funds, because it's different funding than general funds, there was a positive from budget versus revenue. With the additions that we've done for the road department, where is that number now? I couldn't find it quickly. Sorry. Do you know?
The road department number should not have changed. I don't think in between these two iterations. Is that what
the
you're
10 people were already in the last
They were
one?
already in the.
Okay, so
they were
if
already
I remember
in the
correctly, and I can't find the number, if I remember correctly, if you take our budget versus what we project the revenue to be for roads, there was
Yes,
$1
and
or
that's
$2 million positive.
It's 2.2 or something. I don't remember what exact
somewhere
line.
in there. So we're
Yes.
still in that ballpark. So really, okay, cool. That was my question.
Absolutely. We're trying to take dedicated road tax money.
Yep.
Put it into pavement.
So we're basically
but
paying
still
it with
leave,
that dedicated road funds.
but still leave ourselves a cushion.
Okay,
And
that's
let me
fine.
explain why that's important.
Yeah.
Because once again, we're going and pursuing these grant opportunities from the state and the feds. They always require matching funds, and that's why I want that cushion in the road department in case we have to do those types of projects and need those matching funds.
So the other question, going back to my colleague, JP Simon, talked about a difference in budget last year to what we ended up with of 25 million, you said? So how's that reconcile to, I think I saw in here somewhere that the unappropriated funds for 2023 was 4 million, and currently it's only at 2 million based on the additional appropriations we did. So how does that work out?
I haven't walked through that math in my head to reconcile those two numbers.
Yeah, I was just curious because 25 million increase versus a 2 million increase is significantly different depending on those numbers you look at.
Yeah, and that $25 million difference is very large.
Going somewhere, Jake?
And I'm going to guarantee you there's a lot of spending in there that we added to the budget. You know, I've thought before about outlawing cell phones on the horseshoe. Anyways, what I will say, one things I would want to answer for myself, we've been through some very odd budget years with ARPA, and this year you pointed out our roof claim, which, you know, takes a big chunk out of that 112 million. So I'm not really sure what made up that additional spending, but
And I'm curious if some of that was grant funds coming in, insurance claims coming in, which increased the budget as well, but that's why the appropriations didn't go as different.
Very, very valid point. Haven't reconciled
Just
it.
curious.
I think J.P. Simons's point still stands that I think we're all very supportive of this budget in terms of our elected officials, but we will have to stick with this budget.
Yeah,
next year.
there's no change to that.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Justice Pond?
Yes, I'm for approving your road budget. I don't understand how if we don't allow you and your chief of staff to look and do as you see fit, how we'll ever get to a place where we have to recognize that's your jurisdiction. My job is to make sure that I'm going to vote that we appropriate the funds so you can do what you need to do. And it's just everybody here recognizes that we're way behind on maintenance. And you're not going to do it with fewer people. Other thing is that cushion in the road department is very important. We've had situations where, you know, we not only have to match when there's some kind of disaster, FEMA money, we have to go ahead and build that road or bridge or whatever it may be and might not see the money that FEMA has promised for a couple of years. Well, there's places where the the taxpayers can't wait 2 years. They need to, and they might not necessarily care how much reserve we've got. They've got to have a hard surface to drive on, whether it be chip and seal, or paved, or just a good gravel road. I'm for seeing to it that you have that. We have people out here that fully realize, and I'm just tickled that I can call the road department and tell them where there's a pothole, that they might go patch that before it comes time for a resurface. And I sure appreciate that you recognize the need, and I've heard good reports that Chief of Staff Johnson is down there hands-on. I understand he's the first guy that hits the parking lot at the road department, maybe a whole lot of mornings. I don't know, maybe he's not sleeping very well, and he might as well be sitting down there and putting that insomnia to good use. Probably goes to bed earlier than some of us. I don't know, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Justice Rios Stafford?
Thank you, Judge. So just circling back to my question from the beginning, and I just wanted to make sure that I understood it. So the funding overview that we got for the insurance, that shows that our annual funding increase for 2024 is looking like about $839,800. So I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly. So that has been accounted for in this budget, or is that going to be something?
Yes, we've increased the health insurance budget. You understand a lot of that is hard because it's based off projections.
Right.
But that goes back to what else is in this budget, which I just want to continue to highlight, is the COLA that we've tried to accommodate for employees, and then also that the county is consuming that entire increase. So for our employees, they should not see a difference in their health care costs.
Right.
Their insurance costs for next year.
Okay, all right.
I've tried very much to make sure that we could absorb that as a county because, very often we get in a point where we're putting our men and women through they're getting a decent COLA and then we consume it with health insurance increases.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not.
Okay.
Did that kind of answer your question?
No, it did. I just wanted to make sure that was.
I do not foresee a change in the budget for this health. They've been working together throughout this whole process to try to plan and facilitate this.
Plan something as accurate as we can plan for. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Public comments on item number 12.1. Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation to include memoed spending by Justice Lyons, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Those opposed? That'll move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Justice Lyons?
Make a motion for a consent agenda that includes, again, these are the numbers published, not the modified numbers, so we're clear. Because we modified one, but I'm using the numbers.
Use the published numbers. I've went ahead and used the published numbers.
7, 8, 9, 10, and 11.
I have a motion to pass items number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 to the consent agenda by Justice Lyons. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Justice Ricker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Items number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 will move to the consent agenda. With that, we're going to move to the final item on our agenda, and it's a public comment period. We have a 12-minute public comment period with a limit of 3 minutes per individual. Do we have any public comments this evening? Seeing